Welcome to an I Exist podcast. Our entire mission can be summed up in one phrase: becoming all that we are. It is our belief that fulfillment doesn't come from changing into things you aren't, but rather from becoming everything that you already are. And ultimately, we're here to press and empower you to lead lives that are full of fulfillment. We've dedicated this specific podcast to the dream. Not to having the dream or even talking about the dream, but to living the dream. The reality is that there's a stark difference between having a dream and manifesting one. Here you'll gain insight and wisdom keys directly from some of the water walkers of our generation, dream practitioners, those who have decided to tread paths where there were none, to step out into only what they could see. Come take a peek into the minds of some who, from within, create our world's most magnificent realities. I'm the creator and host, Brian Farr, and this is the Living the Dream podcast. Welcome to the second season of Living the Dream, the podcast. Again, I am your host, Brian Farr. This is episode 21, and I want to thank you and welcome you all at the same time. If this is your first time listening, again, thank you. If you've downloaded and listened to any of the previous season's episodes, I want to thank you. To every listener, no matter where you are across the globe, I want to take the time to appreciate you and again say thank you. I'm super elated to say that this podcast has been downloaded upwards of 700 times and counting, which also implies that the total amount of listens even exceeds that. So again, for a final time within this introduction, I want to say thank you, to welcome you back, and I can't wait to share more with you this season. So I want to start this season of the podcast not necessarily talking about the what of your success, because truthfully, every one of you who is listening, every individual defines what success is differently. Some of you define it as starting a family and having a healthy family and living a healthy lifestyle concerning your personal bodily health, mental health, spiritual health. I would hope that's a part of everyone's definition of success, but it may not be. Some of you will define it as a successful career, working your dream job. Others of you will define it through education, others through travel, a certain amount of degrees or a certain amount of places traveled. It's all going to vary person to person. It's an individual perspective. So I don't want to try to define what success is in general, but I do want to begin this season talking about the way of success, not necessarily the system of success, which would fall on me telling you what type of business to start or which particular school to go to, again, if that's a part of your definition of success, or your daily routine, a systematic outlook on success, but I want to talk to you about the substance of your success. So to put that in an example, some of you will feel like a house that you would build from the ground up should follow a certain pattern or have a certain system. Maybe you want the dining room next to the living room or somehow incorporated within it for some reason. You may want an open floor plan or a more compartmentalized type of house. You may want 3 bedrooms, 4. Some of you may want 16. And that is a picture of how all of us will define success systematically different. While that may vary when talking about the way of success, it doesn't matter what your system is or what your strategy is, as long as it's a working strategy. It does, however, matter what you build your house with, because this is going to determine longevity, whether or not you're going to be able to have a house that stands or that withstands storms and different seasons, different elements. And yes, some of that does have to do with systematic placement and preparation. But what I want to talk to you, what I want to start with, again, this season is the way of your success or the way of success in general, because that does not vary as much as you may think. There is a way to go about success. And I'm going to approach that subject matter from an angle that I find personally helpful. Again, you want to make sure whatever type house of success that you build, big or small, 9 bedrooms or 2, which represents what you define success as, you definitely want to make sure the way you build it ends up creating a house or a success that can stand the test of time, etc. So the particular angle that I want to attack this subject matter from has to do with the source of your success. And just to sum it up really quickly before I dive deeper into the subject matter, the question that you'll need to ask yourself and be able to answer honestly is the process of my success from the inside out, or am I trying to gain success by trying to bring things from the outside in? Now, I know that appears to be a little vague, but I promise you it'll make sense before the end of this episode. Again, what you'll need to be able to ask yourself and answer honestly by the end of this podcast is my process of success or process of living the dream, living my dream, one in which I'm bringing what's on the inside outside, or am I trying to bring what's on the outside in? And the way you go about success matters highly, because one way leads to a pseudo success or a false appearance of real success, and the other leads to true, long-lasting, I'll say generational, and fulfilling success. So we all have a picture of what success looks like in our own mind. Again, that's going to vary from person to person, but just know this: there is a way to falsify that success, which means that you can have the appearance of success and not be successful at all, not be fulfilled at all. And that does mean that you can accrue money, what appear to be friendships, intimate relationships, whatever you deem success to be on the physical side of things. And let me just say this: it doesn't have to just be money, cars, sex, diamonds, jewelry, or whatever else some people like to demonize or to make the poster children of vanity. Again, it could be family, it could be friendships, it could be positions within organizations or businesses. Again, we're talking about whatever you deem to be success, because everyone does have their own definition of that. Even a monk or a nun who has, for the most part, normally isolated themselves from whatever could most commonly be considered vanity, you also have a picture of what success is. And that's going to differ from others, but yet and still, you're measuring your life against some image of what you feel like a successful life was. And so anything that can be seen, again, even the friendships, even the abstaining from friendships or whatever it may be for you in particular, on the physical side, meaning that in some way, even with family, friends, you can touch it, feel it, taste it, see it. If it happens in this world, is what I'm saying. You can see it with your physical eyes and you deem it to be success. Trust me, there is a way to falsify that success. I want you to broaden your idea of success so that you don't exclude yourself from the conversation. Again, we're not just talking about whatever else is easy to throw off into vanity. There is a way to falsify your dream, no matter what it is. So again, however you define success or living the dream, whether solitude or celebrity or anything other than that or in between those extremes, there is a way to go about getting there that will make the success, living that dream, full of fulfillment and long lasting. There's also a way to falsify it. And this goes deeper than just lying on a piece of paper and saying you are something that you aren't, or taking a social media pic in front of someone's house or car that's not yours and telling the world or your following that it is. Of course, that's falsifying it. That's a part of it, but this goes a little bit deeper. Any attempt to bring success from the outside in begins the building process of a success that cannot and will not last. It will grant you a success that will come without fulfillment. I would call that pseudo success, because although it may have an appearance of success to others on the outside, and there will be physical manifestations to show for your efforts, because it does not come by a process that will create long-lasting success, nor a success that will involve fulfillment on the inside of you, it cannot be considered a true success. Success should always be something that has the ability to stand the test of time and also be fulfilling, be rewarding on the inside, which means fulfillment was intrinsic throughout the process and even at endpoints within the journey. There should always be a fulfillment that comes along with success. Now, I don't have to cite any written or documented examples of people who have gained a success that was not fulfilling to them. I'm almost certain that if you've lived on this planet any amount of significant time, you've heard stories or testimony from people directly of them doing a lot, going through a lot, or having to work a lot in order to gain the success that they had in front of others, only to realize that the success that they gained was not fulfilling and ultimately did not add to their life in the way that they thought it would. And here's what I'm presenting to you, that the success that was created in their life was one in which they tried to get success to come from the outside in and not the other way around, which would be the fulfilling way, from the inside out. Now, the written or recorded reference you have in your head of someone who has felt that way in life may just be someone who has celebrity status, whose life is filled with diamonds, damsels, and dangerously fast cars, but trying to bring success from the outside in and ending up with a success that is not fulfilling at all also includes the many of us who have climbed our way into executive level positions within a corporation and ended up not being able to stand going into work because of it. Or those of us who built the family of 12 and ended up not being able to stand waking up with the very family we created and so longed for at one point. Those of us who stacked 12 degrees, garnering 12 titles next to our names, and still were left feeling empty or not accomplished. Those of us who took positions of power, whether in politics, again, business, starting companies as entrepreneurs, etc., or in religious spaces, pastors, missionaries, monks, etc., all to find out that we were never fulfilled doing those things. That process includes every one of us that fits those descriptions also. And what I'm mentioning to you today is not a gratitude issue. There are those that would just suggest to you that maybe you feel the way you feel because you don't realize that it's another day and it could be worse, or you just aren't grateful for what you have. And while that may be true for some who even start their journeys the proper way and just forget along the way how far they've come, or that they need to be reminded of everything they've gained and just have a quick perspective shift, what I'm addressing today cannot be completely fixed with just a mere perspective difference. And the reason being that that's not the core issue. It would be like spraying some type of deodorant spray on a dead fish that's been lying on your counter for the last 20 days. There's only so much you can do to cover up the stench and the smell of what's the real problem. You spraying around it or even spraying it directly is only going to do so much. That perspective change with these type of issues, starting the wrong way, building the wrong way from the outside in, can only be corrected by addressing the core issue, which is that success, living your dream, is being built the wrong way. And here's what I affectionately and appropriately call that way of doing things, of living. I call it the climb. And I call it that because there's no greater way to explain the process of trying to bring success from the outside of you, inside of you. So let me give you some actual examples and pictures of what the climb looks like in everyday life. Now, when I reference the climb from here on out, I'm referencing trying to get success from the outside in. That's what I mean every time I say the climb, which is the wrong way to go about success. And I don't have a lot of time to go deep into each of these examples, but I'll do my best to be as clear as possible.
Writer, producer, artist, coach, and inspirational motivational speaker, Brian Farr takes us on a deep, retrospective, and introspective journey ranging from his childhood until life today that invokes the question, will I live a life of significance or one of safety? Filled with experience gained wisdom and revelatory insights, A New Home dares its readers to ask themselves the hard questions concerning their need to fit in. How far will you go? And will all the efforts you've made be worth it in the end? This perspective-shifting discourse is a must-read, and through its hard-hitting yet relatable, tear-jerking, and even at points comical nature may prove to be more of a life-changing event than just a good Sunday morning read. Get your physical copy today at becomingallthatweare.com.
The climb on a daily basis can look like constant conformity and compromise. And I don't mean those in a good way. I'll just say that there's definitely a difference between adaptability and conformity and compromise. It can also involve extreme insecurity, born from comparison, which often will lead to competition on some level rather than collaboration, and also born from being in wrong positions. You can never feel secure being in a position you are not built to hold. The climb will also include a lot of paranoia and fear, primarily concerning being caught or found out to be something other than what you've presented yourself to be. And here's one more day in the life picture I'll reference in this particular podcast. The climb will also involve a lot of ego and pride, which makes it nearly impossible for an individual to embrace the idea of being wrong or to see or admit wrong within themselves, which also means that there will be no ability to apologize or have the ability to truly receive what they need, because that only comes by humility. And that need to always be right or to be considered right is one of the biggest errors of that entire way of living, one of the biggest errors of the climb, because the need to always be right, or at least to appear right, makes a person resistant to the truth, which can only come not by being right, but by being real. And those are two complete opposite ends of a spectrum concerning ways to live. Now, before I go any further into that, I need to explain to you why I consider the climb something that leads to what I consider a pseudo success or a falsified success. First of all, it's not that you can't actually get to an end goal from the climb. It's not like you can't get any money or fame or at least the appearance of real friends or family or positions or any other thing that you may consider personally to be your idea of success or the dream. It's not that you can't get those things, but again, when you get those things that way, they won't be long lasting and they won't involve an intrinsic fulfillment. So I don't say it's a falsified success because you can't truly have an outside appearance of actual success. I also don't say it's a falsified success because of the fact that the climb will include falsified information, lying, manipulation, etc. If you are participating in the climb, that way of living will involve manipulation, lying, etc. And although those elements contribute heavily to the makeup of a falsified success, the core, the primary reason I call the result of the climb a pseudo success, a falsified success, is because it did not start with you. And here's what I mean. You see, no one starts the climb from a place of self-awareness or having their identity intact, or from a place of security or high self-esteem, or from a place of wholeness internally. The climb starts from a place of deficiency, insecurity, often also being incited by bitterness that can come from rejection. It comes from an internal lack, a lack of knowing yourself, and an unwillingness to do the work to get to know yourself, or a lack of knowledge on how to do that work. You see, at its root, climbing is an issue of identity and will often manifest itself in as a lust or desire, a want for someone else's life. You'll internally want the attention that they're getting. You want the life that they have, the things that they have, because it looks appealing to you. And because you're looking at others through a lens of comparison and from a place of internal lack, again, of self-knowing or identity or esteem or confidence or worth, you believe that the only way to establish worth or to be somebody in this world is to accumulate or to accrue physical things, which could be money, houses, cars, again, positions, titles, jobs, sex, relationships, awards, that marriage, this amount of kids, this amount of friends, that amount of influence or followers, quote unquote. You go about life trying to get success by adding those things to you from the outside and believing that's what's going to make you feel successful or worthy or make you have an identity. And that's the wrong way to go about this. That's not the way to have long-lasting success. The problem is not the success. It's not the money or the cars or the houses or the spouse or the family or the friends or the positions or the titles, or again, whatever you consider success to be on a personal level. Because it's not just about, again, the poster children for vanity. Some of the things I just named that people like to throw under the bus, those things are not a problem. It's okay to have all of those things. The problem is where you're sourcing it from. Because it's coming from a place of lack on the inside, and you're trying to accrue those things to make you feel like somebody, or to make you be somebody in this world, or to make you get the respect you don't feel like you're getting from others. And you're waiting to be able to get back at others for their lack of respect for you, or their lack of acceptance from that one time you got rejected, or a few times, or 10 times, or 1,000. It doesn't matter, because if you're sourcing everything, beginning your journey from lack, then you're building your house, your home, the wrong way, and it cannot last. This is the very thing that creates that competitive perspective in which you have to dominate in certain areas, again, in the areas that you need to deem yourself successful, not because it's fun to be competitive or you like a challenge, but more so because of your lack of acceptance and because how much you want it. But listen, if you start from a place of lack, no matter how much you accrue on the outside or try to add those things to your life, it will never fill up that hole. And what you'll find is that even when you accrue those things by the hard work and effort that you are putting forth to get those things, you can't even enjoy the success, because you'll wonder why the people that are now only attracted to you because of your perceived success didn't like you or say they loved you before then. And that shallow success would not be enough to fill the gaping holes of the lack of identity and worth that was there before you began your climb. Now, I know that the way that I'm saying some of these things may come across as if I'm saying that people who are on the climb are just bad, ill-intended, evil people. But let me be clear. I would say the majority of people are good, well-intended individuals who participate in this way of life on the regular, many times because that was the way that they were taught to live. You were taught to live from a place of internal lack and had to start from a place of internal lack because that was just the cycle that may have began in your family, within your educational system, or wherever you learned from long before you got to this planet. It's the reason we have terms, I know, here in America, like the rat race, and everyone's in competition with one another for the little bit of cheese that's available. And so you have sibling rivalry on jobs, and people are cutthroat with one another, damaging each other's reputations, lying on one another, fighting each other, distracted by the idea that there's only a little bit of cheese to go around. We're operating out of a scarcity mentality. Everyone's chasing each other's tails, competitive with each other, all trying to be all the same thing. Everyone's living a life where they're being forced to suck up to the few wolves, middlemen that are in place that supposedly hold all of the keys to your better life. People pleasing is the way of life as a climber. And again, because everyone's chasing trends and following one another, the blind leading the blind, all trying to chase what is perceived as just a little bit of cheese that's available, and there's not enough to go around, the world also becomes short on authenticity because people are not doing the work to find out who they are. They're just forced into the quote unquote rat race, which is a short term to sum up everything I just said to you. Because of all of this, you're forced to live an ineffective life, one that lacks true power because of the inauthenticity and the inability to truly live with purpose and in purpose according to the gifts or latent superpowers, I'll say, that you as an individual were given. If you really think about it in that sense, the rat race or the climb is truly a distraction from your ability to be effective as a person, to be able to set others free and truly aid others in becoming their authentic selves because you have not done the work personally yourself and are caught up in all of the hoopla of an everyday life that is less than what it was ever meant to be. You cannot live a life that is full of fulfillment on the climb, because a part of fulfillment is being able to be authentically yourself in your authentic purpose, on your specific pathway, using your gifts and being able to be effective and an answer in the lives of those around you. And guess what else? It's been stated in the days of old that your gift, your personal superpower, or I'll give you the way Steve Harvey quoted it because I believe it's a great definition, is that innate, latent ability that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. Your gift will make room for you. A person that's been gifted to paint does it almost effortlessly compared to those who do not have that gift. It'll seem effortless from the outside in, especially when you don't have that particular gift. And it goes the same with a lot of things. If it is comedy, if it is speaking, if it is acting, if it is debating, in which then you could become a lawyer, or if it is within the medical practice, or if it is with counseling or coaching, all these things are specific gifts. And there's, I'm sure, more than I can name. But here's the thing. Knowing your gift or what that is a part of knowing you, knowing yourself. And when you're on the climb, too busy trying to be what someone else is, trying to accrue what they have, or even being forced on the climb by others who would like to take advantage of the fact that you don't know yourself yet. And they're encouraging you to be whatever they need, not what you're gifted at. Again, guess what? That's going to keep you in cycles of physical lack, because the idea that your gift will make room for you has to do with your ability also to accrue wealth in this world. That's where your value is. And if I keep you distracted with what I want as a manipulator or a person that just needs company to continue to run, and I'm not educating you on how to get to know yourself and things like that, because I don't want my company to fail and I'm not really concerned about your livelihood, I'll keep you distracted from discovering what the world really needs from you and from exercising that gift and using that gift to be an answer to the world around you. And believe me, there is always wealth and fame and attention attached to what you've been given that the world actually needs. And we all have a gift, but you only discover it in knowing you, and that climb while having you distracted and competing with everyone else and trying to be everything that you're not, or being forced to be everything that you're not, on the sake of someone else who is operating as a middleman in your life and has you fooled, because you are your own rescue. And your rescue really comes from you. Your wealth, your success is only going to come through you. I suggest you go back and listen to the podcast entitled Death to the Middleman right here. But because it's only going to come through you, but you're distracted by the climb and this rat race that others have created for you, you'll miss out on the very wealth and success that you were meant to have, because it's attached to your purpose, and you cannot have your purpose without your identity. So let me turn for a second and allow me to talk briefly about the way to have a success that is long lasting. It's probably evident through a lot of the things that I've said already, because I've already told you that it's about what you're sourcing the success from. But I'll expound again very briefly on the way to have that long lasting success, and one that is full of fulfillment. Again, it's tied to starting from a place of wealth internally, having your identity intact, and therefore your self-esteem and your confidence intact from the very beginning, starting from a place of wholeness and not seeking to fill the holes from the outside in. I love the way I heard a particular definition of success in the past, and that definition was when you're able to manifest what's on the inside on the outside of you. Now, that's a definition that can fit any version of success, whatever you deem it to be. It's when you're able to manifest what's on the inside on the outside of you. That version or that idea or that definition of success fits where I'm going really well. And it ties in the fact that true success starts from the inside out, not from the outside in. And I'll tell you why it has to start from the inside out. It's because you yourself are intended to be, or were made to be, a source. You were created to be a source. Everything that I just listed off throughout this podcast, and not limited to those things. Some of you don't think that you'll be anything without that connect or that mentor or that cosign, all of which and more, including all of the things that I've listed off before. Again, whatever your definition of external success is, All of those things are resources, which means that as a source, you being a source are worth more intrinsically than those resources. You cannot add those things to you to make you any more valuable than what you already are. But those things can show forth your worth. And there's a major difference. When you start from the inside out, those things will become an external manifestation of the success you already have intrinsically, but it won't make you truly any more than what you already are. This is what you will know internally, even having those things. You'll know that they aren't really adding to your personal intrinsic value, but they may show forth your value in this world. And that's how you will be a person who can have long-standing and long-lasting success. You see, the plight or the downfall of a person who is a climber and has accrued a lot of what would be considered external success is for them to actually lose that success. First of all, normally in that position, they would kill, cover up, falsify, and do anything not to lose it in the first place, even if it's wrong, and no matter how wrong it is, because they believe that's where their value is as a person. But if they were to lose it, it would not just mean the end of a phase for that person. They will lose their identity altogether. And we see this all the time with athletes and performers of all types, whether in the religious realm or in governmental positions. A lot of times even born into what they feel like gave them value from the outside. You'll see these people go into depression, hang themselves, jump from buildings, completely lose their identities behind losing a bunch of resources or praise or fake love or affirmation from others because they did not realize all those things were only resources. And as a source, they were already more valuable than all of those things. And they did not work from the inside out and accrue those things because that's who they were. They got those things from the outside in order to try to be somebody. So at this point, you may be asking yourself, how in the world do I start with purpose, with fundamental worthiness, or from wealth on the inside? How do I make those things my identity first before I work them out in this world? And they only become proof of what I was the entire time rather than my identity after the fact. And then again, once I lose it, now I don't know who I am anymore. And honestly, I don't wish I could give you a better answer, but I know that there are a lot of you who are stuck on the physicality of things and you want rules and you want 2 or 3 things that you can practically do in order to get yourself to a place of worthiness or to formulate your identity or discover or know who you are before you go out into the world and become. And that's fine, because the truth of the matter is you can learn the hard way. You can run into a bunch of brick walls and try to accrue all of these things, then lose them because it's not long-lasting success, have that failure, lose your identity, go into massive depression, of which I hope that there's the right people around you to support you and help to bring you out of that, and that you discover the internal strength to do that and then formulate an identity. You could go that route, but honestly, the only way I know to start that way, to do it from the beginning, is to source from the only source I know of. And for me, that's faith and spirituality. Now, I know that may not be the answer you want to hear. You want 2 steps. And this podcast really isn't even formulated around being a platform that you would run to in order to talk strictly spirituality. But this podcast is a part of a wellness brand. And that part of you and your internal self needs to be well also. And this is the only way I know. So I have to be honest and truthful with you and give you the real stuff, give you the real answers, and give you the real way. Listen, faith, spirituality connects you with source. Now, let me say this also. I've heard a lot of people say that the source of their self-esteem and many of the tools that they used and were able to source from on their way to success actually came from others. A lot of people have quoted their mothers to be that great source of self-esteem and the things that they've needed. Because, as I stated earlier, even we as people are intended to be sources. It's the reason why I have this podcast. But the truth is, not all of us are born into great situations concerning those around us. And some of us are actually born into less than favorable situations where the only thing that there seems to be a lot of supply for is doubt, hopelessness, and helplessness. Those are the things that are taught in many places. So to say that you should have to suffer through terrible experiences until you fall on your face and find faith that will internally give you what you need to begin to live from the inside out would be a disservice to you. And to also make you think that your identity and confidence and self-esteem and those things that create a long-lasting success are just going to appear out of nowhere would be like telling you that the universe and everything you see around you, even the things made by the hands of men or the earth or anything else that we had nothing to do with, just formulated itself out of nothing. That's not the way of thought, I believe. So in the same way, because everything around you, everything created has a source, including you need to connect yourself with that source, and that is spirituality. You need to know where you come from in the same sense, not just from mother and father, but deeper than that. Faith is the answer for it. Now, just to be clear really quickly, spirituality connects you to the source. Not to get too far into theology or anything, but this is just for those of you who are able to hear what I'm saying. What that means is God is a source, not a middleman. God is not the great middleman in the sky. Again, refer to one of the previous episodes entitled Death to the Middleman. The reason why I'm saying this is because if you don't be careful, you're going to bring the climb into everything I'm saying about spirituality, which means you'll get into the mode of God pleasing, the same way we do people pleasing when we want something or feel like they're our only way to a specific thing. But the thing about a source is you don't have to stroke the ego of a source for it to supply to you. A source does it out of the fact that it is full of whatever it is you need. It doesn't need pumping and priming and conditioning to supply, which is again why we are intended to be sources ourselves. Also, you don't go to a well or a natural spring and give it a pep talk in order for it to supply you with the water that it has. You don't pray and say nice things to the sun in order for it to rise every day or for yourself to wake up in the morning. Now, those are all things to be grateful for, and gratitude comes out of the fact that it was supplied to you without your effort. But that's the job of a source. Anyone who is truly generous does not need their ego stroked in order for them to give, because they're full. They start full. Every source that is and lives, that exists, starts full, and therefore does not have the pride and arrogance that comes with those who are on the climb, who need you to suck up to them and again kiss and stroke their ego in order for them to do something for you. A true source will give without demand of even a thank you, because they are a source. And once they've given, they'll still be full of the self-esteem, of the confidence, and everything that they had before. The journey that I'm mentioning to you is about learning to become a source, so that you can always overflow when there's a presence of your affirmation or when there's a lack of it from others who have not yet become the source they were intended to be. So again, spirituality is not connecting you to a middleman. There's a great confusion and misrepresentation around the world in which people have made God or spiritual things or spirituality or faith this idea of a climb, an ascent to heaven. Spirituality leads us to a source, not a middleman, not someone demanding your good or your praise or your effort in order for yourself to receive what you need internally. That's not a source. That's a middleman. So the last thing that I want to say is that I referenced the climb earlier as a way of life, and I did that for a reason, because it's important to know that how you do one thing is how you do everything. All right. So if you're climbing in your career and you're stuck in what some call the rat race and are stuck in people pleasing and are stuck out of your rightful position as a person concerning your calling and your gifts and cannot seem to find your way out of internal lack, and therefore sometimes, for most of you, even external lack, if you're stuck into that cycle in your career, because it is a way of life, it is a way of thinking and therefore a way of being, you're not only going to have to kill the climb in your career, but you're going to have to kill it in areas like your spirituality and in areas like politics and in your family life, your relational life with others on this planet. Because again, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So you're going to have to learn how to notify yourself, identify the fact that you're in the climb and want to get out and kill the climb in all of those areas. Because unfortunately, if it's affecting one, it's affecting all the others. It's a mentality. It is a way of life. So what that means is, if the climb has kept you in cycles and ineffective in one area of life, I know that it is keeping you ineffective and in cycles in all of the other areas of your life. Now, the truth is that a lot of the cycles we end up being in, pent against one another, on the climb, always needing to be right, always attempting to be right, and being very hypocritical while doing so. All self-righteousness is hypocritical at the end of the day. And because of your need to be right, it's preventing you from the ability to be real. And when you can't be real in life, it stops you from being able to make good decisions on any end, on any spectrum in life. It makes you take sides and makes you believe you're the only one doing things the right way. And it blinds you from truth. Listen, this is why religion and politics, for instance, are both so divisive and also very hypocritical, because normally being involved in these things with the wrong perspective puts you on this endless climb to be perfect and to be right in your own ability to do so, which is an impossibility. And now everyone's taking sides and saying we have the right way. And here in America, politically, you're either on the left or on the right. And neither one of them are fully right, because truth is not a side. Truth is a source. Truth doesn't take sides because it is a source. And until you kill the climb in your own life, you cannot be aligned with truth. You're going to be on either side of these divisive instruments formulated by humanity, striking each other down on behalf of what they consider to be right. And again, what that lens always does, that need to climb and be perfect and to be right within your own works with your hands and feet, is prevent you from seeing what's real. Truth is not a side, it's a source. And that has to become our lens to see the hypocrisies, to see the inconsistencies. It's not a side. Being caught up in that trap only makes everyone fight one another. And again, goes back to what I was saying earlier about the sibling rivalry that's not only on your jobs, but within the governmental systems, within religious sects and organizations, because of the hypocrisy of attempting to be the right one or doing it the only right way, which blinds us all from seeing what's real about the very situations that we're in, blinds us from seeing ourselves properly and having a right self-assessment, because we'll do anything to appear to be right and even do what's evil at times, lie, cover up, and switch up just to continue to appear right. But that's just the top layer. That's just the outside. That does not make you internally good. All of these things are divisive and blinding. So if you want to kill the climb in your own life, you're going to have to begin to learn how to live from the inside out. Find that worth, find that esteem. Or should I say, source that worth, source that esteem, source that confidence, source that good. It's not from you, it's from your source. And let that be also for anyone who can understand. But you have to source it so that you can be it. And that way, nothing that comes by way of success will define you, because you were defined beforehand. You were wealthy beforehand. You were full beforehand, full of glory. So any external glory you might get for your accomplishment won't add to it. It'll show forth what was already there. And let me say this is not an excuse to walk around and say that I'm successful and I'm blessed or I'm fulfilled and I'm rich, and be okay with it never coming forth. The truth is, if it's actually there, if it's really on the inside, no matter where you start from on the financial scale or what neighborhood you grew in, when you can get it on the inside, when you can get it internally, it's going to show forth on the outside. It's going to manifest itself on the outside when it's truly there on the inside. So that's not an excuse to pretend like you have formulated some self-esteem or confidence or sourced it. And if it doesn't show itself, you're just going to continue to hide and pretend like it's coming, and you aren't actually putting your hands to the work of showing it forth. That example that I just gave is actually a manifestation of the climb, because it's what we do when we're on the climb. We'll say those things just to fit in with those sometimes who really have their identity intact and have wholeness and have worthiness intact. And the longer it doesn't show forth, we just try to play keep up, lie, and excuse and start putting up facades. And that's when you go to the real falsities of taking the social media picture in front of someone else's house and someone else's car and become bitter, etc. Because you're trying to accrue the top layer to try to compensate for what's not there internally. That is the climb. You cannot go on living that way and have anything sustainable or have any real impact or have any real power or have any real effectiveness in this world. You have to do the real work, but it's going to come from you having that identity settled, that internal work settled on the inside first. And then you can have it all and be fulfilled, everything that's right and good for you. So I just wanted to start this season off by giving you some insight on how to not just live the dream and have it be a falsified version of what you could have had if you would endure real processes and go through the hard work of getting to know yourself, but so that you could actually live the dream and do it the real way. There is a way that you're meant to do this and that can have long-lasting effects, have fulfillment involved. And don't get me wrong, you're still going to have hard moments. You're still going to be uncomfortable. You're still going to be faced with potentially in moments being insecure, and you will have to remind yourself of who you are. When new challenges come, you're still going to have to go through it all. But again, when you start from the inside out, it's going to be a long-lasting journey. When you're talking about doing things that your children's children are going to benefit from, you're going to need to start this journey from the inside out. And that's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take doing things the right way. It's going to take building your house the right way with real materials. So I just want to motivate you to do the right thing and start your journey, or stop your journey the wrong way, start over and begin to do it the right way. Do the work. This is not a game of keep up. The race of life, if you want to compare it to an actual relay or a race, is not about who can get there the fastest and impress each other. It's about the long haul. It's about endurance. This journey is an endurance race, not a speed race. So if you want to be the billionaire or the family man that doesn't make it there until age 60 because you did it the right way, it doesn't matter. It's not a speed race. This is an endurance race. And if you can endure all of the processes that it takes to get it the right way, you can get there in the end and have fulfillment and long-lasting success. That's what I want for you. That's why I built this podcast. So listen, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast on the platform of your choice, go ahead and do so, because I've got a lot of great things and information coming for you this season. A lot more to talk about, a lot more to explain, explore, etc. Also, you can follow me on social media. We got a lot of things coming that I know you'll be interested in. The journey's getting broader and broader, and I love it. And I want you to be in on some of the things that we're doing. You can find me by searching Bryan Farr, BryanPharr. That's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you can connect with the I Exist Nation through my pages. Follow the I Exist pages that are attached to mine. I can't wait to get back with you. I can't wait to get to the next one. And until then, you know that it is my desire through this that you would prosper. And until next time,